Hello, my name is Mark Blackwood, and over the next few minutes I'm going to be taking you through the SBS attendance dashboard reports that we've created for schools that use Sims. The report itself uses Power BI and 3 or 4 reports which come out of Sims. We'll look at that a bit later on in the demonstration. But what we have here in Power BI is an opening menu, so you can jump from one page to another, and also we've got a series of tabs running along the bottom of the screen that allow you to go directly to the individual report that you might like to see. So let's have a look at them and see what they do. So our first page is an opening dashboard which basically shows you details relating to basic numbers within your school. Males, females, with percentages, pupils in care, pupils with EAL, and so on. We've also laid out a set of attendance details. This is for the whole school, and this allows us to make a selection of, say, perhaps one year group, and you'll actually get an update of that, and again you get an update based on the overall dashboard as well. The other thing about this is because we've got all the attendance data, we can make modifications to the date range we want to do the calculation for, and that allows us to make comparisons between the whole school and the year group or year groups that we may have chosen to report on. The numbers are all colour coded as well, and the school can actually set their own target figures as to what they'd like those percentages to be in relation to percentage present, authorised and unauthorised absence, and you get a red, amber, green value based upon how good your scores actually are. Moving on. This is a simple demographics page. We have a number of filters on this page that allow us to look at, say, a particular year group or SEN status, or any combination of the two. So we could pick year 10 pupils on pupil premium. And what this report is actually doing is showing us a population density based upon students' postal district. Now, our training data isn't exactly great with regards to postcodes, and you can see here that we have students that are migrating into school from all over the country. This isn't a particularly good example, but you would actually get that based on the postal districts, obviously, for the students in your school, which would be probably far more focused. This is a similar report, but what it actually does is show you, and it would normally zoom in on a normal system. So I've got a few issues with my postcode on my training data, but just zooming in here, what we've got here is a set of filters, all the standard filters you might expect to see, and what we're doing here is plotting the postal district and the percentage attendance within those postal districts. So if we hover over a section here, we can say how many students are actually contributing to that and what their overall percentage is. And again, we've got a red, amber, green setting based upon what their percentage attendance is, based on targets that the school would set. Because we've got all the attendance data, again, we can actually set a filter of date range on here, and it will recalculate it. Apologies for the jumpiness, that is to do with the postcodes on my data. That would actually zoom in, but again, you would actually get a setting which would show you, based on that postal district, how many students live there and what the overall percentage is for the students that live in that particular postal district. And again, we've got our set of filters plus any number of different ethnicities by simply ticking the appropriate sets of the boxes, and it would automatically update itself as you work your way through. Our next page is an attendance analysis. This attendance analysis again has the same set of vulnerabilities that we can filter on, but in addition we can also filter by date for the week, and also the absence subcodes for schools that are interested in doing a bit of analysis based on the impact of COVID on their pupils. Now, I know there's been another set of codes that have variously appeared and disappeared. It would show you any of the codes that are actually in the data set that you are currently examining. So once again, we've got a date range. That date range, incidentally, doesn't have to start in September. We could actually modify it and move it up so we can look at a shorter, but like the previous half term or something like that. And what we've got here is a set of gauges. Those gauges are actually all the same size. They resize themselves based upon the target figure that we set and where that positions itself within the box, and that's why the gauges themselves are in slightly different sizes. But we can see the overall percentage attendance, the percentage authorised absence, and the percentage unauthorised absence. And again, we've gone for a red, amber, green setting on there based upon those values. So for example, if you did want to check to see what your percentage absence would be, or what the impact of COVID is, I've got all my absence subcodes selected here. If I was to say what would our school look like if we didn't have any codes relating to that subcode, then it will update it automatically. Obviously, we can't pretend the students who have that code on those sessions would have been here, because they could have been off for other reasons, but we can compare our school both with or without the individual subcode or subcodes. Looking at your attendance data in a bit more detail, we've got the same filters, the same date range selectors that we've got on here, and also what we're doing here is looking at days of the week in a bit more detail. So we could zoom in on a particular code. Let's take the O code. If I simply click on that on the key, then that will highlight where the O codes are, and actually to me it looks like Wednesdays and Fridays seem to be a bit of an issue here, certainly for that date range. And again, we could try and narrow it down to see if there's any particular detail within our data, and also we can also do filters based on those subcodes as well if you needed to. Let's just turn those back on, but you get the idea. And what would you expect to see? Well, if you're looking at authorised absence, we would generally expect there to be more I codes than M codes, and they should make up the majority of the standard authorised absence codes, and that's really so we can keep an eye on that and make sure there's not any particular day of the week that's out of the ordinary. Persistent absence is another issue, and again we've got the same set of filters and the same date range that we're allowed to choose, including the absence subcodes. And what this is doing is identifying a list in descending order in terms of percentage attendance of those students who have crossed the threshold for becoming persistent absentees within that date range. Potentially more importantly, we've got an opportunity here also to look at the students at risk of becoming a persistent absentee, and we can set that value with the slider. And essentially what we're saying is these are the students whose percentage attendance is between 90 and 90.7, because their attendance is giving us a bit of a cause for concern. But the other thing we may then want to do is say, well, would they be persistent absentees if we were to remove the impact of COVID from their absence? This is an absence dashboard, again using the same set of filters, but also what this allows us to do is compare that to the DFE national statistics. And what we've got here are the standard vulnerabilities that the DFE want you to be able to look at in terms of boy-girl splits, EAL, SEN details, and so on. And what we've got on here is our year groups in what's called a matrix, and we can use that matrix to say expand. Let's have a look at year 10. If we expand year 10, we can go down to registration group level. Again, all those values have been recalculated. We can see what the national figure is. We've got a green for go on this particular year group because they are within the national figure. And then if we expand that again, what we've got here is the individual students, and we can see that we've got one student here whose percentage attendance is particularly poor, their authorised absence is particularly poor, and so you can actually use that again to examine your data. Remember that if you choose to modify the date range for the analysis, it simply recalculates it and again compares it to the national average or the national data. Punctuality. So we've got a particular problem with punctuality in year 9 in this particular school, and one of the other things you can use this report for is developing narratives. So let's say that we're examining year 9, we've got our details here, and we found out that our lateness in year 9 right the way from September was a bit of a problem. And what we've got here is again a baseline figure of 0.2%. That's configurable by the school. And what we can see here is our percentage lates before, lates after, and combined lates. And by the time we get to October, that's a bit of a wake-up call for us. We're way over the top there. That's the dark blue line for all of the lates. Is way over what we would expect it to be. So let's say the school took some steps. Perhaps they started a breakfast club to try and get the kids in early in the morning, and that kind of thing, just to see what the impact is. And we can see that actually we have a gradual impact of that, and actually we're starting to get that under control by the time we get to December. So you can use this as a way of explaining and looking at your data as you take steps to try and improve what's going on. We can see over here we've got gauges for that again with the target setting available for you, and you can see that year 9 actually isn't doing too great. Let's take year 9 out of the picture and have a look at our school, and actually lateness is a bit of an issue with our data. Okay, so that is the set of reports that we have. There's one extra report that we have that's particularly for high schools. I know that this is actually high school data, but those set of pages actually are common to both primary and high schools. But we've got one extra page on here for any high schools. and this is actually using lesson monitor data. The lesson monitor data allows you to, again, using the same set of filters, but also including things like period data. We've actually got lesson marks for all of the school, every possible lesson marked for the entire school year. And we've even put in some extra bits there that allow you to link your subject codes in your school up to the ones which count as being English, maths and science. And we can see here that for this school, we've got that overall. I think year 9 is where we've actually got some data. No, it's year 10 that we've actually got some data on this particular system. So there we've got that. Again, we've got we could narrow it down by period, see if particular periods are giving us cause for concern. And then if I just also select something like, all these things are interactive. So if I take something like biology, you can see that biology is part of the science department, and you can see how that compares to the two. And those figures are updating as we go. Okay, so how does it get its data? Well, fundamentally, there are 4 reports that this is actually using. This is a tool that Sims supply to us, which is readily available. It allows you to take reports which have been designed. So we've designed these reports and put them onto a system. You can then use this spreadsheet to actually set it up in such a way that you don't even need to be in Sims to export your data. The way that Power BI works is you take, from a Sims perspective, is you take your data out of Sims and you pull it into those reports in Power BI. So what you would do on a regular basis, you would ask it to run these reports. They'll run sequentially, one after another, and then you would refresh the data in Power BI to be able to see what the current value is. You might perhaps do that with something like attendance, say once a week, so that you're able to see on an ongoing basis how things go. Okay, this particular report is something that we are, there is a cost associated with it. The costs including an hour's installation, 1 year's updates and bug fixes are available on our website. If there's any more details, again, that you want, either contact myself via the company or look on our website for further details. Thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.